study of manuscript evidence. Today we're going to be looking at the New Testament words, some words that were in italics in our King James Bible, but have been translated into the other Bibles without being italics. And I mentioned italics words were not words found in the Hebrew or the Greek manuscripts. The translators inserted those words, they put them in italics to let you know these are not part of God's words. And that's very important. That's why I'm doing this study. Not mainly about translations yet, but about the italic words. And so as we continue, Matthew, and this is not an exhaustive study. I picked maybe a dozen verses we're going to look at that I feel like are important to look at, but there are many, many, many verses with italic words, or even parts of the verses that are in italics that I'm not going to look at. So that'll be up to you to study for yourself. All right. Matthew chapter number 6 and verse number 30. Matthew chapter 6, verse number 30, and a little bit through the verse. It says, "Shall he not much more clothe you?" Shall he is in italics. And that in the NIV, in the RSV, and those are the only two Bibles that I have access to that show that these words, shall he, in italics, in our King James Bible, were not in the Hebrew, in the Greek text, but in the NIV and the RSV, they insert the words as if they were. I mean, there's no footnotes, there's nothing saying these words are not in the text, and so they're just put into the text like they were part of the manuscript. And the main thing about this study is the manuscript evidence. They use different manuscripts to retranslate the King James Bible. Matthew 11 and verse number 8. Matthew 11 and verse number 8 says, part of the way through the verse, "Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses," or in the king's house. Soft clothing is in italics. In the NIV, it says fine clothes, not italics. It's just if the words were there in the manuscript. In the Revised Standard Version, the RSV, which is a retranslation of the ASV, they say soft raiment, not in italics, as if the words were there in the Greek text. This is Jesus speaking these words. Remember, these are God's words. Jesus spoke these words, and he did not speak soft clothing. He did not. It's not there. It's inserted there by the translators to make the verse more easy to understand. I hope everybody understands what I'm trying to say here. So Hebrews chapter number 1 and verse number 1 and 2 says that God spoke the words in the Old Testament to the prophets, and verse 2 says, and hath in these last days spoken to us by his Son Jesus. So these are words of Jesus that are God's words that are included in the NIV and the RSV, which are not in any manuscript, the traditional text of the manuscripts that King James Bible is translated from. We'll get into that traditional text later as we get in deeper, a little bit deeper into manuscript evidence. Matthew 18:11. Matthew 18:11. Again, Jesus speaking. "For the Son of Man is come to save that which is lost." Those are his words. Those are God's words. For the Son of Man is come to save that which is lost. Matthew 18:11. In the NIV, the verse is left out. In the RSV, the verse is left out. But the number is still there. It goes from verse 10, 11. 11 is blank, and then there's a 12, and it goes into verse 12. Now, the chapters and numbers were inserted in the 16th century, about 1551 for the New Testament and 1571 for the Old Testament. Chapter and verse. Now, 300 years prior to that, there were chapter divisions, but not verse numbers. There were chapter divisions, but not verse numbers. And then 300 years later, they were chapter and verse numbers. So, Matthew 18:11 was there. Like I said, it's in the traditional text. The NIV and the RSV put nothing there. Not one word is there. And so they changed it. Somebody did. They left the verse